Hi, this is Seth Mosley. I'm here on the campus of Lipscomb University with my new friend, Missi Gallimore. We're here on the Made It in Music podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear your story. I've just been getting to know you a little bit, and I know our audience is going to love hearing it as well, too. And I just want to start with a very simple question, and feel free to go in depth with the answers you want. But how do you find great songs?
Hard work, listening to a ton of songs a week, hitting the ground, going to every publisher, even if it's the tiniest little publisher. And usually when they're like tiny publishers, I'll just say, look, send them to me. I can listen to them quicker than, having just to go and sit down and listen to a bunch. Just send me your top 5. But it's basically just relationships with these publishers and just getting in there every day, every other week, staying in contact with them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so, it's good. Well, we'll dive a lot more into that. I wanted to ask that first, just because that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, it's a lot on relationships with publishers too. Just keeping that relationship and the productivity and how a lot of times you'll talk, publishers will feel like they meet a dead end, either whether it's at the label, they can't get answers or management or whoever. But for me, I just feel like it's very important to always get back with publishers, regardless if it's a pass or whatever. But I feel like it's very important to have communication with all publishers.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about that, but I want to zoom back in time. What was the first moment where you can remember music impacted you and you knew you wanted to be involved in it?
Oh, man. I can oh, God. Oh, let's see. I really don't. Music was never, this is kind of like just all happened by chance for me. I had applied for a position at a law firm, and they didn't hire me. This is like right when I had gotten out of college, but they liked me well enough that they passed my resume on to Billy Sherril. I don't know if you guys know who Billy Sherril is, but he produced George Jones, Tammy Wynette. He was huge, a long time ago.
Sure.
And so I get a call one day from his lady that's worked with him for years, and she's like, "Hey, well, we'd love for you to come in and do an interview at CBS Records at the time with Billy Sherril." I had no idea at all, music, whatever. I loved music, but I never was like, I always thought I was going to go down a different road. But anyway, I went in. I remember driving down 16th Avenue, and I remember the house. And I was seeing all these old houses, and I was going, oh, my God, it was like 6 o'clock at night. Oh, God, what have I gotten myself into? This looks real shady. This is, I was having all these thoughts. So I walk in, and I go upstairs, and Billy is sitting there in his office. And do you guys know the artist Charlie Rich? Do y'all know who Charlie Rich is? It was the most beautiful girl.
Okay.
Huge songs back in the day that Billy produced. And I remember Billy, I was sitting down and he's like, "Would you like a glass of champagne?" And I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take a glass. And he's like, I'm going to play you something. And it was something he had just cut on Charlie Rich. And I had no idea who Charlie Rich was. No country music was not even on my radar at the time. And he's like, "What do you think about this song?" And I just paused for a minute and I go, "Well, I really don't like it. That's all I know to say. I just don't like it." And he's like, "You're hired." And so he hired me, and I worked at CBS Records for a while with George Jones and all the people that he produced, David Allan Coe, all these people that would come in that he would produce at CBS Records. And I remember he was almost like a father figure to me because he would always say, "You stay away from Johnny Rodriguez, or you stay away from David Allan Coe. He's a bad one, Yeah. And but I really cut my teeth on Billy, and he was a producer, and he worked in A&R at the time, and he was a huge producer, but huge songs on George. What's some of George's biggest songs Billy did? I can't even think right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just kind of I knew nothing about it. I just felt like I was just kind of thrown in, and I just, just kind of started building from there. And I went from there to publishing, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
So
What do you think it was about that first interaction where he asked do you like this song? You said no. Was he just looking for somebody who was really picky musically,
I think
or
he
what?
was just looking for somebody that probably just didn't know what the crap they were doing and wasn't like a songwriter or wasn't all involved in the music industry and all up in it. You know what I mean? And I think I just had no experience, nothing. And I think I just think and it was immediately, you're hired, but I just think he was looking for someone who just wasn't going to hound him all the time probably and didn't have a clue what was going on.
That's awesome. So today, what exactly are you doing in the business? It's a lot of things, but
still, A&R for Tim McGraw, Keith Urban. That's the two main guys that I do A&R for. I would like to pick up maybe one more client, but I'd have to be very picky on who it would be. I don't want to water myself down. I've had several people reach out about some things, but it's not. It would have to be someone A&R who I felt like I could really, really help, and then I would think about doing it. But I mean, it's just a lot of responsibility and hard work, and it's tough right now. It's tough finding those little gems. I started working for Keith on the Ripcord album. Yeah, I came in late on the Ripcord album. He had already recorded a ton of things. And I thought, oh my God, how am I ever going to be able to pull off, finding songs from him? He's already cut a lot. He's cut outside songs. And I was lucky enough to get 4 or 5 songs on that album, and goodness gracious, Blue was one of them. And so that was a big deal. That was probably ended up being his biggest song of his career, and it's an outside song. So that I came in on that and then started working for the album that's out now. And what was the question again?
No, it's what exactly are you doing today?
Like that's still kind of like pays the bills. That's just kind of, but I still love it. I still get so excited when I hear a great song. You would think after all these years that I would be so jaded, but I'm not. I feel I play it a million times in the car. I'll bring Brianna out to the car and say, listen to this. And I'll listen to it over and over. And I still get so excited about hearing great songs. So, but then my other thing that I'm doing, I feel like I'd kind of peaked there, and I wanted to do something, I was itching to kind of do something different. And I've always loved publishing. I'd always loved A&R. I've always not really familiar with management, but always thought kind of with publishing, that's what publishers are doing now. They're kind of like doing everything now. And Gary just came to me and asked me if I'd be interested in starting an artist development company with him, and I'm like, sure. So we've been going like 2 years now.
So what motivated you to do that? Because obviously going from, working with people as established as Tim and Keith to a lot of people who are, I'm assuming, from the ground up with these development deals. What was the thing that motivated you to do that?
To do this thing with Gary, you mean?
Yeah.
I was just kind of, I don't want to say tired of doing the same thing all the time, because I feel like I still get really excited, but it was just, I just felt the urge to do something different. Still wanted to do my A&R, but just dip my toes out in something else and try something else. It's just time. It just comes with age, It just comes with, confidence and feeling that confident to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try something new. So that's
kind of a new challenge, so to speak. And how is that been? 'Cause that's a relatively new thing.
It's new. It's hard. I just have to tell you right now, it's really, really hard. It's harder than ever right now. It's the most exciting to me too, still, because I still think you can have all these hits and these artists can break without labels now. but it's still it's hard, but it's also invigorating and exciting too. Like,
Yeah. So what are some of those biggest challenges of developing new artists nowadays?
the biggest challenge is freaking getting them a deal, because I feel like you still have to have the record label. You still have to have a big record label. You still have to have them for radio, terrestrial radio right now. It still is. You still have to have them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, but labels are moving so slow now. They just take forever and they can't commit. I'm working with a guy by the name of Shy Carter. I don't know if you know who Shy Carter is, but I'm working with him and I'm managing him. And this guy is an incredible artist. He's an incredible songwriter, and we've been working the past year on his artist project. And as good as he is, it's getting these labels. They all love what they hear, but they want to see everything. They just want to have the product finished, turned into them.
Yeah.
They want the whole thing done.
So what? That's what I was going to ask. What are they actually looking for that these artists don't?
I don't know. I really beat my head up against the wall all the time on this. I don't think they even know what they're looking for. I think they're looking, they look obviously at the streamings, at what artists are streaming the highest, which I don't know why they put so much faith in that. What happened to just hearing a great artist, hearing his songs and knowing and going with your gut and saying, I'm signing this guy.
Sure.
Let's go for it. Let's roll our sleeves up and let's make this guy. Let's make this guy a star or whatever. But you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And especially with Shy, we got labels interested, but just, getting it across the finish line is really hard.
Sure.
And then you look at some guys who just get signed just like that, and you just go, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no rhyme or reason. I don't know.
So what does the development process look like, for at least how you guys are approaching
Well,
it?
how we're approaching it is, I'll just use Shy for an example because he's the furthest along. You start with great songs. It's still all about great songs. You get a great song, you're going to break. You have one song. Chris Jansen, great friend of mine. I had publishing on Buy Me a Boat.
Oh, okay.
He was doing absolutely nothing before he had that song.
Wow.
Kelly, his wife, is my best friend. She sent the song to Bobby Bones. Bobby Bones played it, and look what it did. Look what it did.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
So it just all starts with rolling up your sleeves, getting these artists in the right writers' room, strategically putting them with the right writers. That's where it starts. That's where it starts, in my opinion.
Yeah, it all goes back to finding great songs,
regardless if they write them or not.
Well, and that was going to be my question, because a lot of artists nowadays, and maybe you want to speak into this a little bit, but a lot of artists are very insistent on writing their own stuff nowadays, or at least being a co-writer on it. Is that part of the conversation that you're having with your artists that you're developing?
Yeah. I mean, I encourage the artists that I'm working with, cut outside songs. Cut out the biggest, Keith's biggest song was Blue Ain't Your Color, outside song. Miranda's biggest song that she had, The House That Built Me, outside song. Who else? I can't even think. Those are like the two that just come to mind.
Yeah.
But it's still, don't turn away from a great outside song. So the artists, and the artists that I work with are, very receptive to that. They're very open to that. I mean, they'd be stupid not to.
Yeah.
And there's some artists that aren't.
Sure.
They just won't consider it. And I just like scratching my head going, I just can't believe that.
Sure.
But
the quality of the songs probably suffers as a result of it, I guess. So let's talk about what are some of the accomplishments that you are most proud of in your career. You talked about Tim and Keith. Is there anything in either of those stories that you're like, this was this was a big win.
Well, the Blue Ain't Your Color was a big win.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest. Just coming in cold for Keith and being the artist that he is, and finding this song for him was just huge. And I have to say, Keith is the sweetest. I would get texts from him just about every other day thanking me for pitching him that song. He is the sweetest guy. But I don't know. There's not. I mean. Probably that. I mean,
What was the story behind that? How did that?
Oh, it was just random. It was a snow day. I was at home with my kids, and when I'm at, if it's a snow day and I'm at home, I'm always listening. And I was just listening. And Nate from Cornman Music, I was supposed to have a meeting with him that day, and because of the snow, got canceled. So he just sent them to me.
Okay.
It was nothing. I just heard the song, like, okay, I'd like to put this on hold for Keith, and sent it to Keith. He immediately texted me back and said, "Oh, I love this." I don't think Keith even realized at the time that it would, do what it did.
Wow.
"Live Like You Were Dying" is another one. I can remember right where I was.
Where were you?
When I got the call about, you really need to get over to the studio and hear this song. Craig just demoed. It was Chris Oglesby. He was working for Craig at the time. And I was getting on Interstate at Demonbreun to go home. It was around 5 o'clock. And Chris called and he says, "I just heard a song I think you really need to jump on really quick." And in those days, it was like, oh my God, I got to get to this before somebody else gets the song. I got to go and hear this song right now before somebody else puts it on hold. And it was just like constantly. And so I drove to County Q. I don't even know if County Q is still doing demos over in Berry Hill.
To be honest, I don't know.
But anyway, I went to the studio. Craig was in the studio. They had just demoed the song. I heard the song, put it on hold for Tim immediately, got it to Tim, and huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were moments, when I, can remember like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, those are massive successes. So
yeah.
How many would you say of songs that you get? Is there like a typical ratio of like how many songs you get pitched versus ones that you actually are like, okay, this one, I'll put on hold for Tim or Keith or whatever artist you're working on?
I don't know if this answers your question, but I would say I would be lucky nowadays if probably even less than this, but if I could get one song, just one great song a month.
Wow.
That would make me really, really happy. And that's probably not even now. That's like, wouldn't happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Just I don't know. I guess I really don't know. I just don't know. I think the writers in town, the publishers in town and writers in town, they're the ones that have to change what's going on right now. They've got to quit writing this stuff. They've got to quit writing the truck songs and the whatever they are, but they're the ones that makes the wheels turn here, and they're going to have to quit chasing everything. And that's how I look at it. But,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
They're always chasing something.
Yeah.
Chasing
like a trend that they think is everything
yes, they're
has
chasing
to
a
fall
trend
in this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hopefully I don't know. Have you guys seen the video that's going around about the snaps?
Yeah, like in the country songs.
In the
like
country songs, how it's ruining all the country songs. Yeah. So so now, I'm really glad, from talking to Gary, because I know Gary probably hears it a lot more than I do being in the Keith world. But, radio is really starting to not want to hear those type songs anymore. It's going back to country, which I think is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Even when we were just talking before the interview, you have a lot of advice in the vein of like, stay the course, just keep doing your thing. It's something a lot of musicians really need to hear. And it's that kind of advice that nobody really wants to get, because it's just like, okay, I know it's persistence. But can you talk a little more about that?
I'll tell you a story on Tim. And I won't say who the person is, but when Tim first came to town, this is before he was working with Byron, he worked with a producer and went in the studio, and this producer told Tim that he would never work in Nashville, that he needed to pack his bags and go back home, that he would never work.
Wow.
And oh my gosh, and Tim still to this day remembers that.
Wow.
And remembers, and it's just hard work and staying true to you and don't give up. You just can't give up. I mean, God, Chris Stapleton was here 20 years before he got that moment with Justin Timberlake on the CMT stage.
Yeah.
That was, I think, not CMT, CMA.
The CMAs, yeah.
There was that moment, and that, he was here. He was around for 20 years. Byron used him on backgrounds, and he was doing, just writing, and it's just, you just gotta keep going. Just gotta keep going.
So what is it when you're talking to one of your artists, Shy or anybody that you're developing? What does that conversation look like on a day-to-day basis? Because I'm sure that's something you're having to reiterate to them probably pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, Shy, not so much, but the younger acts, for sure. Track 45, Abby Cohn. You just got to, and there's such, and these guys, there's such, with this generation, it's just a generation of putting stuff out now. They just want to throw stuff out, throw one thing out without a backup plan. They just, so constantly having to say, hold up, let's back up. We got this great song, but you got to have stuff behind it to back it up. Just keep writing. Let's keep getting you in this room. Let's keep getting these songs, and let's just get the songs together. Then we'll go cut, and it's just a constant. It's a constant.
Yeah.
And then if their calendar's not full, then, they get freaked out because they don't have rights in their calendar. Yeah. And they just always feel like they've got to keep, be doing something, be doing. So
sure.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
it
sounds like it's a lot of reminding them that the songs, like that has to be it. That's the king. So
I'm really hard.
Yeah.
I'm really hard, and sometimes it's really, really hard for me to take my A&R hat off and kind of like put my publishing hat on, because I have a couple of publishing companies as well. And I'm really hard on my writers, and I don't mean to be, but I just feel like I know what these artists are looking for, and I know what you got to be writing, and I know what it's going to take to get a song cut. And sometimes it's really hard, though, for me to really take my A&R hat off and put my publisher hat on. Or, I hear great. I hear what they think is the A songs.
Sure.
These great songs, but that's a real struggle for me.
Sure.
Of having to play the two, the publisher and the A&R person.
Well, for people who maybe don't even understand the differentiation, what do you mean specifically by that? Like,
well,
what are those two
just
hats?
the A&R hat. Like obviously I work for two of the biggest entertainers, and you're going to get pitched the top drawer stuff. You're going to get pitched the great songs.
Sure.
So I hear these songs, the few that I hear. So I'm always comparing what my writers are doing to these great songs. And sometimes that's really hard because that's too hard. But like I said, I just feel like I know what it's going to take to get these songs cut. And it's so hard to get outside cuts now.
Sure.
So it has to be a really special song for some of these writers to.
Sure. So for your when you have your publishing hat on, are you thinking less about pitching just for literally just straight outside cuts and more about just booking them in co-writes, or what is your thought process?
Well, for my publishing company for writers that I published, obviously I'm just listening, for who can we pitch this song to?
Sure.
And for the artist that I'm working for, like for instance, Abby Cohn. Do you guys know Abby Cohn? Stacey, do you know Abby? She's just turned 20-year-old. She's great. She gets so upset with me because I'm like, these are really, really good. Gary's the same way. We have these conversations. These are great, but we got to get that one song that just has that fairy dust.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason about it. They just do. They just come in. They just have that little hit to them.
Yeah.
They just have that little whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, let me dig into that. And this is the $1 million question that everybody wants to know, but what makes a great song? How do you define that?
It could be as country. That's just a really hard question because it could be a melody. It could be something as simple as Meant to Be, who was just very simple, but such a sing-along hit, that you could just really not think about it and just sing along to it. So I don't know. I don't know I don't know.
Yeah.
That's some honest answer. I don't know what makes them have the little fairy dust. What makes it? I have no idea.
It just has a thing. You kind of know it when you hear it.
You just know it when you hear it. You really do. I do. I just know it when I hear it.
Yeah.
So it's a hit chorus, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, what I'm always looking for is a lyric that is slightly out of the box a little bit. For Keith, I'm looking for a lyric that is raw and honest. That's really and simple. And that's really hard for Nashville writers to do because they all want to get a little contrived in their lyrics.
Yeah, or maybe to be too poetic or artsy so that when you go play it at a writer's round, you can impress your friends. And with this line is so cool or whatever.
Yeah, like I was pitched a song the other day and we were laughing about it and I stopped the plugger and I'm like, in the line, if it was for Keith, one of the lines in the song said, "Mary, Mary, quite contrary." And I looked at that publisher and I said, Keith would never say that line. He's never going to sing "Mary, Mary, quite contrary."
Wow.
So it's just a lot of the Nashville songs are very contrived. So it's really hard for writers to really find that simple lyric that is a hit.
Wow.
But oh my God, if I would have had The House That Built Me, to me that is like.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a song.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Back in Mama's. What a freaking song.
Sure.
Tom Douglas.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the master.
So pretty much Tom Douglas is the answer for that question.
Oh God. But now I've heard some things of Tom's that's not very good either, But
yeah, and he'd be the first person to tell you. He's been on the podcast and he's the first person to tell you that nobody's bulletproof, right?
Yeah.
We all, and even him, I mean, how many songs out of all of them have been his big ones, like just those few, right?
Yeah, a few. And, a lot of his things, they sound alike, melodic wise, a lot of his things sound alike. So it's really, his publishers really need to work with getting Tom with different people that can push him melodically because a lot of times his songs sound melodically alike.
Sure.
So, but Lord.
When he delivers one, it works.
Yeah. There's quite a few, actually. For Tim's, quite a few of his.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about, in the intro, just finding great songs. It sounds like it's fairly just, meet with the publishers and... It's all about your relationships with the publishers. And if you get results, which I do... they're going to pitch you the songs. Sure. They're going to pitch me the songs before they're going to go to the label at Universal and pitch them the songs because I work closely with Keith. I get quick answers. I have Keith's ear. Sure.
So, I just get results for them. I've got a lot of cuts for a lot of publishers and a lot of songwriters. And it's just the relationships and it's just staying on top of it and, going in every like with the bigger publishers, I meet every other week and hear the new things that's come in. And I really like going out to publishing companies. I don't like them coming to me. I really like going out and sitting down and listening just because they might have something, oh my God, what about this? I totally forgot about this song. And, instead of them coming to you and they have their 3 or 4 or 5 or how many ever they... Yeah. But some of the boutique, like I said, some of the smaller publishers, it's like, okay, you really, out of 5, you're going to pitch your favorite 1 out of 5 songs probably if you're a real small publisher. Sure. So it's really, but...
just having more limited catalog to work with. Yeah.
But it's just all about relationships, I think. And publishers want to see... what's the word?
Like track record.
Track
like
record, and they
success.
want to see success.
Yeah.
And another thing that I've really started doing with Tim and Keith, which has been working really great, is we've been having writers' camps. So we just finished a writers' camp for Tim, and we ended up cutting 2 songs out of the writers' camp. We did a writers' camp. Keith had never done a writers' camp. We did a writers' camp for the album that's out now. And I'll tell you a funny story. I put the camp together, and Keith said, "Oh my God, it sounds very interesting, and I would love to do this." And it was last year around Thanksgiving. And I had it all set, and Keith tried to pull out. And I'm like, oh my God. And he tried to pull out, and he's so sweet, but he started getting bombarded by all these writers going, let me in the camp. I want to be, some of his really close friends. And we'd already had it was already kind of full. And so he felt so bad that, he's so very conscious about that.
Sure.
So he almost pulled out, and I'm just like, please, you can't pull out of this. We got it. Let's work through this. So we work through it. He comes in for the camp, and he does a show on the shopping network where he sells his guitars, I think.
Yeah.
On the home network or whatever it is. So he had flew in, he'd been up, you stay up all night. It's live.
Wow.
And he was up all night, and he plays like for, I don't know, he just looked rough. And that's all I could say. And he could barely talk. And so I left. We got the camp started. He was you could tell he was very anxious about it. And so my assistant at the time, she called me. She said, I think you need to get back here. Keith just told me he was never going to do this again. and I'm going, oh my God, he's going to fire me. This is awful. God, so I go back, and everything had kind of calmed down. But it went from, I am never doing this again, to this was great. Let's do this again.
Literally in the course of like 2 days.
Yeah,
or whatever.
3 days. And he ended up putting 4 out of the 5 songs from that camp on the record.
Wow.
Very strategic, very focused, very productive.
Wow.
And so we're getting ready to do another one at the end of March. But yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that first of all, that's an amazing story. What is a camp for, like, people who maybe aren't familiar with that idea? What did you kind of go into a house, and Keith is there? And
we do. We run a studio, sound stage or backstage, and we have probably about 10 writers. Keith's very involved. Like with Tim, I was like, okay, here's the writers that I want. Tim's like, okay, I don't care. So I was very involved in just picking the writers for the Tim count. But for Keith, he is very involved because he's a co-writer. Tim's not a co-writer. And Keith pretty much leads the way on who he wants involved in the camps. And we go 3 days, and we cater. We have lunch and breakfast. We have breakfast and lunch, and then they end about 5. And then, it was very, very good. I was so excited that it worked out. And
is Keith and Tim kind of bouncing from room to room, or are they kind of just...
Keith is, but Tim wasn't. Tim wasn't even there. Tim would come in the mornings and talk to everybody and just kind of cheer them on and kind of tell them what he was looking for. Tim's really not a writer.
Sure.
But he would tell them what he was looking for, and that helped a lot. And that was it. And then Keith's a very slow worker, writer. So moving from room to room, that's what freaked him out with the first camp. It was like, oh God, wait a minute, I gotta jump to the next ride in 2 hours, and I haven't even gotten done, into this song. So that was what freaked him out. But we worked it out, and it ended up being great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's
very successful.
That's awesome.
I am all for that now. I actually would love to start doing that with other artists. If I could, find the right artist. I would love to work with Garth Brooks. I feel like I could really help him.
Wow.
I would love to do something like that with him.
Hey, well, it's out on the internet, so if you're hearing this,
Garth, come on,
Writers Camp. That is awesome.
That is a very closed door.
Sure,
it's very tough.
Sure, and how to get
into the Garth world?
Yeah. So how do you go about curating, which writers you want for those camps?
Well, like for Tim, I'll give an example. There's a young track guy that I've really been liking what I've been hearing him do. And actually, that before the camp, Tim, I had pitched a song that he had done, and he had sent it to me. It was Matt McGinn and Nathan Spicer, and it was called 7500 OBO. And I saw that title come through my email, and I thought, wow, that's a really different title. That's really interesting. So immediately, I got to hear this. This is such an interesting title. Yeah. And I listened to it, and I just loved it, pitched it to Tim. But I loved what I've just kind of been listening to Nathan, just been kind of hearing been liking what he had been doing. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to throw him in on this camp and just see how he does.
Sure.
He ended up getting 2 songs, brand new songwriter, brand new track guy. I think he we got the Tim cut. Brianna, has he had any other cuts? Ryan Hurd
song.
To a T. He wrote that and produced that.
I love that song.
Yeah, so he wrote that. So just a young, up and coming kind of guy. And he ended up getting 2 songs cut out of the Tim count. But I just, on the Tim count, it's just writers that I loved. I had Tom Douglas. I had Brian Simpson. I had Matt McGinn. I don't know. It's just, it's just people that I just, love.
Sure.
Yes. They're writing.
Yeah.
But I'm all about the new writers too, though. I love finding new writers. Love listening and actually what I'm doing with Keith right now is just sending him writers who I think he might not be aware of, like young writers. Yeah. And sending it to him and saying, here, you need to really listen to this guy. I really like what he does. And that's kind of where I'm at with the process I'm doing with him right now.
That's awesome. Well, I love that you're a part of championing the up and comers. So that's great. It's how it keeps growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've talked a lot about? Really, it sounds like kind of publishers and writers step up, just start writing better songs in the Nashville community. What do you feel like songwriters and publishers need to maybe change? Are there obviously not following the trends? You talked about that.
Stop following the trends would be the main thing. I'm sorry. Okay. Go ahead. What else?
No. That's
thinking more out of the box. But just don't be followers, Stop chasing what's on radio right now. Be thinking about what's going to happen. That's on down the road,
That's good. That's awesome.
That's the main thing, I think.
Good advice to the entire writing community. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to close up with the lightning round.
Lightning round.
Is there a song that almost didn't make a record that turned out to be a hit?
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a song. I don't know if y'all remember the song on Tim. It's called When the Stars Go Blue, Ryan Adams song. I pitched that song 10 times to Tim before he cut it. So that's not really answering your question. I can't really think of a song that almost made the record that was a big hit. I will say Tim passed on a song for How Forever Feels that was a big hit on Kenny. Yeah. Tim cut it and didn't make the album, and then Kenny cut it and it was a big hit on Kenny. Let's see. I know there's so many that, yes. Okay, there's one song that's, okay. So there's a song, Break Up in the End. Yeah. I was pitched that song, and it was a crappy work tape. Another song, Live Like You Were Dying, Lori McKenna. I could go on and on about her. Yeah. But a song called Break Up in the End, I was pitched that song, and it was just a crappy work tape. And I knew that song was going to be a big song, and I tried to get Tim to do it. I tried to get Keith to do it. Wow. And that song haunted me because I knew, and sure enough, nominated for a Grammy and Song of the Year and all. So it's hard hearing songs like that and not being able to get your guys into it. That's so hard. But that one in particular, I was like, oh God, I know this song is going to be such a hit.
Yeah. And it was. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in music? Okay, well, you might have already answered this, but is there anyone in music that you want to work with or meet that you haven't already yet?
I would love to work with Garth Brooks. I just feel like I could really, really help him.
It's good.
Yeah.
Favorite music movie or documentary?
There's a documentary out. Oh, God, I love documentary. There's so many. The music documentaries, the Eagles. I love that one. I love the Tom Petty. But there's the movie out now about the war. That's the documentary. Do y'all know the one I'm talking about? It's literally you're seeing what the people back in like 1900s or 1800s. It's real footage.
Oh, wow.
It's in the theater now.
Wow.
And it's a documentary. And I saw a little bit of that, and that I love it. But I love music documentaries. And I love have y'all seen Abducted in Plain Sight?
I haven't.
The documentary.
I haven't.
I love things about that. But yeah. But music docs are I love them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Favorite Nashville meeting spot?
Coffee and Coconuts.
Feel free to plug that. That is
Coffee
a
and
great
Coconuts.
place.
Yes, yeah. No, Coffee and Coconuts. I don't like to go to offices much. I don't like to be. I'm not an office type girl, you know. I love to be at coffee shops and
Sure.
whatever. I love Barista Parlor. We do a lot of meetings there.
Yeah, and I'll plug it for her. Coffee and Coconuts is amazing. It's a great coffee shop in Franklin. Was it safe to say it's your side hustle?
It's my side hustle. Yes. Real quickly, I was looking for something other than just the music business. It's just been everything music in our house. And I was just looking for something different to do. Never set out for it to be a coffee shop. I was sitting at a little Mexican restaurant one day at Tito's, and I thought, oh my God, that would be the cutest little place for a coffee shop. And I called about it. It was supposed to be a UPS store. 3 months later, I get a call and say, well, it's not going to be a UPS store. Are you interested in a coffee shop? Yeah, I am. So I went to school on just really focused in on coffee shop for a year, and hit Pinterest really hard as far as ideas and studying. Went to classes at Crema.
That's awesome.
To learn about coffee. And so it just before I knew it, it was like, oh my goodness, here we are. But it's doing great. 2 years, June 2nd.
Yeah. I'd love to dive a little more into the side hustle part, and we're going to do a little bonus clip kind of on that just because it's fascinating to me. And
yeah, I'm going to say
interested.
one thing.
Yeah.
At the coffee shop, we do writers' nights there. And when I wanted to do the coffee shop, I wanted to do it in support of me loving me. I love coffee, I love music, and I love the beach. So that's why it looks like it does. But I also wanted to hire people, young artists, young writers, that's the people I wanted to employ to do something like the coffee, Muletown Coffee out of Columbia is a bunch of songwriters from Muscle Shoals. And I just knew I wanted to carry their coffee because I love these. So
and it's fantastic coffee.
Yeah, it is.
So we are going to do a little bonus segment with her. You can check it out at madeitmusic.com on the episodes page for her. We're going to talk about the side hustle. But the last lightning round question, one thing that you think will be very different in the music biz 5 years from now.
I don't think there'll be terrestrial radio anymore. I really don't. I think the streaming is coming on strong. I think I don't know how relevant labels will be 5 years from now. That's the big question. I know right now you still need them, but I don't know. 5 or 6 years from now, I don't know.
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. I don't know.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good answer. Well, Missy, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned a ton. I'm looking forward to going back and listening to it. And it's been with Missi Gallimore here on the Made It Music Podcast. Thanks again. Hey, what's up? Thanks for hanging out on this YouTube video with us. In case you didn't know, this is from the Made It Music Podcast Season 2. We have a ton of awesome guests that come on the show, all music business professionals, to share their knowledge and experience with you. So if you want to subscribe to not miss any future episodes, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and you'll be notified about all of them. And in case you didn't know, we do a deep dive for every episode where we go really in depth on a certain topic from each podcast episode. So sign up right here to get free unlimited access to all of those deep dives from our podcast. And if you want to watch another Made It in Music podcast video, click here.